We are here for week number 26 of the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series here at the Delaware National Speedway in Dover, Delaware. The last time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series drivers hit the track, Eddie Johns steals a victory away from Mike Hogan after passing Hogan with 5 laps remaining to take the victory at Quincy. Mike Hogan was upset with Caroline Salvatores after Salvatores was the one car to hold up the 17 of Mike Hogan, which Eddie Johns just passed the 17 of Hogan by to eventually to get the win. Hogan was frustrated, particularly with Tyson Bell, claiming that he was sabotaging him ever since he departed the team at the end of the 2014 season. Hogan, ever since departing the team, has actually been has had a really successful return season 1 year after having his worst career season and having major issues with the Tyson Bell organization that led to his departure in 2014. Hogan led the championship at one point, but has since tumbled down a little bit in the standings. Other storylines heading into this weekend: the Kellogg's National Series Championship, the venue for the 2016 season. We are now likely getting word that the Bristol Motor Speedway will be hosting the 2006 National Championship for the Kellogg Series, which the National Championship venue will be a Southeast host for the 2016 season. Bristol will be the first. It will mark the first time that the National Championship will be contested in Tennessee and will be contested in a stadium-like arena, as the past 3 tracks, Myrtle Beach, Airborne, Gregory, and California, are not really like a stadium feel, so it will be a kind of a great experience for those 4 drivers that make it into the National Championship race next year. We have some more silly season news to talk about here. Arby's, the fast food chain Arby's, will be sponsoring the 76 of G Killen on a part-time basis. We don't know how many races that is, but sources saying that we're likely going to see that car have sponsorship for about 6 races next year. Ray Lanuso will bring his team over to Rusin Autosports, and as a result, Rusin Autosports will bring it up to a Chevrolet. So now it'll become a 2-car team. Goodyear will drop the sponsorship on the 52 at Carson Brink, citing poor performances by Carson Brink. Brink is expected to stay on with the 52 team. And now we take a look at our Week 26 winners in the Lowe's Modified Tour at Stafford Speed Park. Cody Vaughn took the victory in that race. The Ray Zero Series and the GameStop Truck Series took the track at Dover. Mark Dunnigan took the checker flag in the Ray Zero Series race, and Broden Lewis took the checker flag in the GameStop Truck Series race at Dover. For 200 laps. The last race that we ran here was in 2014, where Giannori took the checker flag, and the first race was contested in 1990. Starting on the Aflac Pull Award here is last week's winner, Eddie Johnson, car number 55. His teammate Shane Harden will start on the outside. All 13 championship contenders all started within the first 12 rows. The lowest starter being Ethan Littinger, car number 51. He will start this race in 23rd. Our 2 substitutes, 2 replacement drivers that were able to get in this race, Shane Little and Ivan Bradstone, will start 6th and 14th, with Little starting in 6th, and Ivan Bradstone, making his Verizon Cup debut, will start in 14th. The other replacement, Zach Davis, failed to qualify. So Eddie Johnson, car number 55, 1 week removed after winning at Grand Teton, will lead the field down to the green flag. Harden will beat the 55 to turn number 1, but Eddie Johnson, 55, will have the preferred line. 66 of Jason Duke just did not get started at all. Johnson will clear the 59 of Shane Harden as they enter turn number 3. Shane Nargan in car number 32 will go for 2nd. However, Johnson already starts to pull away from both the 32 and the 59. Nargan will likely get 2nd spot as they head to the line here. Johnson leads the first lap. Here are our 2 substitute drivers that I mentioned in the pre-race. Shane Little making his 2nd career start, driving car number 9. Ivan Bradstone making his Verizon Cup Series debut. Right now they are starting. Ivan Bradstone is still remaining where he is at 14th, while Shane Little has kind of dropped back from his 6th starting spot. As right behind Bradstone is the 48 of CJ Gordon. There you see Cody White and Jay Arnori, 2 previous Dover winners, are right ahead of the 9 and the 88. As Alan Kimmel and James Gary, the normal drivers of those 2 cars, were injured in accidents at Grand Detour, so that's why it's there. We have an incident on the back straightaway as George Davids, Ethan Littinger, and James Wilson Jr. would get together. They would slide down the back straightaway, and when Wilson will save it, however, this would clutter up the field as CDC Stephen Volkin, the 29, tries to get through. He'll get hit from Carson Brooks and will get turned around. And that will actually be our first caution of the race, lap number 9. Carson Brooks just pulls in front of the car he'll be driving next year. As Shaker 3rd, Nick Dunnigan also get a piece of that as well. No significant damage done in this accident, as we're going to take the restart here. Restart on lap number 13. Walter Uden in the 8th took the lead after, I believe, Eddie Johns dove down pit road for a caution flag pit stop. Shane Harden immediately makes a challenge and goes for the race lead very easily, with Scott Johnson, car number 58, trying to take over that second spot. Jason Duke, car number 66, goes high with Youthen and will stay there as Mark Mungill, car number 20, will try to take over that fourth spot. Walter Youthen in the past several weeks has just had a rough several weeks. Casey Lester, the 12 actually went into the wall right in the back as Ronald Portland and Chris Clark, I believe, had to check up there, but Shane Harden, car number 59, would just continue to drive away. We would have our next caution lap 22. Chandler Blake would get into Kevin Brooks. Brooks and Blake would go into the wall. Blake would then try to drive down pit road. He would get into Chris Devon. Jan Arnoy would run into the pit wall. Chris Bell and Shane Clark III also get collected. So tough break for the 06 of Chris Devon. Devon actually slowed up to see about the 15, just driving down the racetrack. Jan Arnoy just plunged into the pit wall while Chris Bell, I believe, just had nowhere to go as well. The restart would happen on lap 26 as it was just a utter mess. Tony Wider, the car you see right here, is actually running in 12. Shane Kinston in the car behind is running in the 13th spot with Brian Dawson and Ronald Portland following. However, the leader of the race was actually Scott Johnson, as here's where Scott Johnson was. I believe when they took the restart, he was like in the middle of the back straightaway. So I don't know what's up with the NOVAR officials. And look at the lead he's already had. He already has roughly about a 1.5-second lead, maybe 2 seconds over Shane Harden and Walter Youthen. As third is actually fourth place. Jason Duke is also somewhat in there. As here's the battle for second with Shane Harden, car number 59. Harden, who I believe just had a little bit of a dismal day at Grand Detour, but was luckily enough to rally to get the finish. Walter Youthen, as I mentioned the past several weeks, just had a rough outing in those past several weeks. Walter Youthen 8 would eventually get by the 59 of Shane Harden as Jason Duke in the 66 continues to look on as they go around the lap car of Cameron Brooks in car number 33. Shane Harden in the 59 will just go underneath as well. He is now the 59 will try to track down that 8 of Walter Youthen as those two would eventually catch up to the 58 of Scott Johnson. Johnson's lead would cut down. There you see they're going by Tobias Newbridge in the car number 96. Youthen will eventually go by as Harden will get held up by the 96 a little bit there. So that's going to be a little bit of issues, I think, between those two as the 8 of Walter Youthen and the 58 of Scott Johnson. Those two would actually be the ones clashing for the lead. And a few laps later, Walter Youthen and car number 8 would easily take the lead away. As there you see a lot of lap traffic ahead. Ronald Portland, Carson Brooks, Logan Chin, Cameron Brooks, and Shane Nargan among notable drivers. As looks like Brooks in the 33 is going to give the outside line, or looks like he's more likely going to give the outside line to the rest of the leaders. There you see Scott Johnson in the 58 trying to close in as they'll two will battle it out. Mike Hogan, car number 17, who finished second last week and could have won the race at Grand Detour, and actually should have won the race had it not been for one of his former drivers, actually one of his former cars, kind of taking him out of contention. Hogan's so far doing justice right now, running in the top 10. I believe as it stands out, he's running in the 7th spot, as I believe the next car in line is in the 8th spot. Here's a very good battle for 21st between James Olsen Jr., Chris Clark, Logan Chin, and Tobias Newbridge. These cars, I believe, were all lapped recently by Scott Johnson, but looks like the 56 of Chris Clark and the 11 of James Olsen Jr. Wilson, who got the season off, started pretty well with the pole at Dentsville, but really hasn't really done anything since then. Clark, who also is very likewise, although he came very close to winning the Boston race, as looks like Clark will get by the 11 of James Olsen Jr. We would have a recaution lap 111, as there was, I believe, a piece of debris reported in turn number 1 and 2. So we'll have to get more around that. The cluster of a restart would happen again on lap 115. Walter Youthen led on the restart, as I believe Scott Johnson was in second, but now he was just stuck in that cluster. Now Harden apparently has actually restarted in second, as that was just a huge mess on the restart. As prior coming to the restart, though, Brian Dawson would run into the pit wall, and I don't get why that was not a caution, as he was blocking pit road. Our third caution comes out with Carson Brooks, tries to go to pit road, misses, and he goes out and just takes out a lot of good cars. Tobias Newbridge, Gordon Billard, among others, are taken out as well. Let's see from Newbridge's perspective. Brooks just shoots back up the racetrack. Gordon Billard, Logan Chin, Casey Littinger also gets involved. Shane Kinston also in there. 8th to Littinger in the 51 came very close to getting taken out in the stretch, but great driving by that 51. The restart would be calm this time on lap 121 with Walter Youthen and Shane Harden leading the way here, as Harden in the 59 is the leader of the race with a couple of black cars in the way, particularly the 53, 88, 4, and the 4. As you see, the 58 of Scott Johnson's running in the 3rd spot. Kyrie Ethan is, I believe, off the lead lap, if I'm not mistaken, as they are now rumbling out of turn number 4. Looks like Shane Harden in the 59 will still hang on to the lead, as looks like Scott Johnson's already gotten by that 4 Carter Pavis. Walter Youthen will eventually get under the 59 of Shane Harden, and will pretty much take the lead from here, as I believe the Ada Waltz-Ethan will go to the bottom of the racetrack and will power by, as there you see the 58 Scott Johnson also caught up to the pack, along with the 88 Brad Stone. Brad Stone's currently running in 10th, one lap down, as there you see the Hardin would immediately counter the hit Waltz-Ethan's pass and will take the lead, but Waltz-Ethan can't counter it because the 88 is on the bottom of the racetrack, and Brad Stone and car number 88 will try to get one spot ahead, as I believe Brad Stone is one lap down, if I'm not mistaken, and the 59 of Shane Hardin will also continue to lead until Waltz-Ethan will then again take the lead away from the 59 of Shane Hardin, as Waltz-Ethan, car number 8, will go to the bottom of the racetrack. There you see the 21 of Shane Kinston is right now on the bottom of, going to be probably in the way of this, while Scott Johnson, car number 58, will follow suit, as Hardin tries to get a run on the outside, but looks like Waltz-Ethan would have the preferred line. Scott Johnson would eventually get to the lead thanks in part to lap traffic, but Shane Hardin, the 59, will get back to the lead once again, thanks in part to lap traffic, with Gordon Billard in the 91 getting in the way, but I believe Hardin used a really good pick used the 91 as a really good pick there, as it will show there, as Johnson will try to get a slingshot run off of turn number 4, but he might have gotten there, but no issue there. Hardin would extend to his lead, would get to a pretty sizable lead, but still have a little bit of lap traffic issues with Chad LeBlanc and Tobias Newbridge, who actually lap Hardin, and oh no! Hardin just get taken out by the race leader. Hardin just was taken out by a lap car, and now Ivan Bradstone and Scott Johnson's also piled in. Luke Warren's piling in as well. Hardin trying to get on pit road. Cody Wyke is piled in as well. Stephen Volk's in there. CJ Gordon. And even more cars piling in. Chris Clark. And Jamie Scotty. Ronald Portland into the pit wall. So apparently Tobias Newbridge just gets into the back. I don't even think that Newbridge just darted down. It might have looked like Newbridge was trying to get that line, but I think apparently, as there you see, there's contact from Warren. The Hardin tries to get back going, but then gets rear-ended by Wyke, who then Wyke takes a wild tumble in the middle of turn 3 and 4. Chris Clark, Jamie Scotty, Kyrie Youth might have gotten a piece in there, and Ron Portland Hardin in the pit wall for car number 31. And here's what happens. Looks what happens. It looks like the 59 and the 96. It looks like a 50-50 fault there, as I believe Tobias Newbridge was trying to get that spot under the 59 to get a run off that corner, while I believe Hardin was trying to shut the door, and I believe that didn't work at all. Hardin would be really furious, and there you see that 22 car going up on his roof, as Hardin would go there. Ron Portland took a hard hit into that wall. Here's another angle. Looks like Hardin comes down, and I believe he would get into, looks like Hardin was trying to come down at about the same time when Newbridge was trying to get that spot, but you know what? Newbridge's a rookie, and I can't really blame him about that, as this might be very interesting, as the red flag, as you saw mentioned there, red flag came out on lap 176 to clean up all the debris there. Ivan Bradstone, tough break for him. He was running in the 10th spot, nowhere to go. Scott Johnson almost got away, but he was clipped in the rear end, and that's what sent that 8 car around. Waltz-Ethan was not involved. Here's what happened from Scott Johnson's perspective. He was not the only Hardin was not the only Monster Energy racing car getting hit. Carson Brooks tries to go high, but gets nowhere to go, and then as a result, that sends Jake Kirlin into the path of the 58. Scott Johnson, the 58, would also drop out of the race, along with Shane Hardin in the car number 59. So this would really leave Waltz-Ethan as the only dominant car left in the field. Here's what happened from Hardin's rear end's perspective. There you see Newbridge tries to get the run in the corner, and I believe Hardin just came down on him, as Hardin actually would make kind of an interesting discussion. He would actually kind of go off on like the NOVAR officials when the initial ruling came out. He actually wanted an investigation. There we see you lose the rear end camera of the 59. Here's from Tobias Newbridge's perspective. This might be a really good angle. There you see, I think Hardin comes down, and then Newbridge tries to, I think Newbridge actually was trying to slow down, not to get into him, but I think Newbridge was just a little bit too late on that. NOVAR officials did actually investigate this accident, and Hardin would actually cleared for a investigation. We would have taken the restart on lap 178, however, our 6th caution of the race came out about the same time. Evan Brooks would run to the pit wall, and we get Shane Nargan as well. Evan Brooks took a hard hit into the pit wall and rolled the car upside down, so the restart actually had to be held up a little bit more. Waltz-Ethan, car number 8, pretty much the only dominant car left in the field, will be leaning on this restart with, I believe, the 83 of James Wilson Jr. hanging right there in second, as Wilson's the second car in line. Only 3 other cars would be on the lead lap, that being Mark Mongillo in car number 20 and the 48 of CJ Gordon. Here's Mark Mongillo in car number 20. Mongillo will eventually get by in most lap cars, probably with the exception of James Wilson Jr., as the 20 of Mark Mongillo just not really had the year he wanted, as last year he won at Dentsville and I believe hovered around the top 20 for most of the year, but this year's just not really been his year, as he's been mostly in the low 40s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and it's just not been his year. for that 20 car. And meanwhile, the car running at 30, CJ Gordon. Gordon going into this weekend had a very quiet run for that 48 car. Gordon going into this weekend was one of the 13 championship contenders, but really has not had really quiet day, but likely will be eliminated. There you see the 12 case Lester. Lester actually pitted early and really not recovered. I believe he's in 17th, another championship contender. Gordon, who will likely be eliminated from championship contender leaving this weekend, will likely get something positive out of that. But that's not really going to matter, as Walter Youth in car number 8 is going to take the white flag this time. Walter Youth in the past 3 races has just been brutal for that 8 car. He DNQ'd for both Camden and Grand Detour, and then at Homestead had a very good car in that race before mechanical problems relegated him to a 29th place finish. And now doesn't appear that there will be any more problems with that 8 car, Walter Youth. And coming out of turn number 3 and 4, Walter Youth in car number 8 will score his 2nd victory of the season here at Dover, with Mark Mongillo and CJ Gordon rounding out the top 3. So after 3 dismal weeks in the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series, Walter Youth scores his 2nd victory of the season. And strangely enough, this is only Ease Racing's 3rd win of the year and also Chevy's 3rd win of the year. Really big surprise this late in the season that they only have this amount of 3 wins combined for both Ease Racing and Chevrolet. So kind of a big surprise for both of them. Walter Youth, who took the victory after his 2 main rivals were taken out in a crash roughly with 25 laps to go. Mark Mongillo, car number 20, a very solid 2nd place effort for car number 20 of Mongillo, who's just not had the year he's wanted here. CJ Gordon was the only other car to finish on the lead lap. He'll finish this race in 3rd, 10 seconds back. Mike Hogan is the only car 1 lap down. He will finish this race in 4th, so a very quiet effort. 1 week removed after being robbed of a victory at Grand Detour, he gets a 4th place finish here and actually beats Eddie Johns, which Eddie Johns finishes this race in 5th. The other major points contender, he'll finish this race in 5th, 2 laps down. He and Chris Clark are the only cars 2 laps down, as Chris Clark will finish this race in 6th. He is 2 laps down. Todd Piper, car number 26, finishes this race in 7th. He is 3 laps down, and pretty much everybody, the rest of the drivers on this list are 3 laps down. Kyrie Youth, car number 57, a very quiet run for that 57 team. She'll finish in 8th spot. 9th will be to Logan Chin in car number 72. Another quiet run, so pretty much most of these drivers had very quiet runs and just somehow got up there. With Logan Chin's car number 72 is in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is Carter Pavis in car number 4. He'll finish this race in 10th. And now let's take a look at our point standings. Shane Harden still remains as the points leader, and pretty much the majority of the top 10 remains virtually unchanged, especially notably the top 6. Those are virtually unchanged. Harden still leads, but now the points lead is 36. Scott Johnson finished ahead of Harden, as Johnson finished 23rd, while Shane Harden finished 24th. And that was due to that crash that happened on lap 174. Eddie Johns and Walter Youth are the big winners of that. They closed their deficit to 41, as both of them are tied, as I believe Walter Youth should technically have the tiebreaker, as he has 8 top 5s to Eddie Johns' 6. So don't get why the tiebreaker is a little bit messed up there. But in our boards, it has Johns over Youth. As a result, Casey Lester is then another 50 points back of Walter Youth. Lester is 5th in the point standings, 91 points back. Chadler Blake in car number 15 didn't really have a good day. He is 107 points back, 16 behind Lester. Mike Hogan, car number 17. This is where the change is really starting. Mike Hogan and Ethan Littinger swapped spots. Hogan with that 4th place effort, while Littinger, I believe, didn't really do anything. Didn't really have the finish he wanted here today. Hogan gains a spot. He's now 110 points back. Ethan Littinger is 119 points back. Shane Nargan remains where he is at 9th in the point standings, 155 points back, about 36 back from Ethan Littinger. And CJ Gordon, car number 48, rounds out the top 10. And before we get into the 11 through 20, CJ Gordon, Jason Duke, Cody Wyke, and Jake Kierland have all been eliminated from title contention with their points deficit. Gordon will lead this weekend with 195 points. So as a result, Gordon, Duke, and Wyke and Kierland will all have to those 4 drivers will be required to qualify their way into Columbia in the next few weeks. And now we take a look at 11 through 20. Jason Duke in car number 66, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Duke, Wyke, and Kierland, those 3 have been mathematically eliminated this week. The deficit, I believe, going into the next week, in order for you to have a reasonable shot at winning the championship, would be 180 combined points. As both of them are, as Duke gets 195 points back, tied with CJ Gordon. However, Gordon has the tiebreaker due to top 10 due to top 5 finishes with 4-3. Cody White, car number 22, he drops a spot along with Jason Duke. Both of them, Duke drops out of the top 10 as a result of the tiebreaker. White in the 22 drops to 12th in the point standings, 215 points back. Jake Killen in car number 76 remains where he's at, 219 points back. So I don't think he really gained any ground there. Kyrie Youth in car number 57 is 14th in the point standings. She gained 3 spots to 14th in the point standings. Chris Clark gains 4 spots to 15th in the point standings. Mark Bungilla was our big winner in the top 10. He gained 10 spots to 16th in the point standings. He is 248 points back. Clark was 241, while Ethan was 238. Walter Green, car number 39, he drops 3 spots to 17th in the point standings, 250 points back. Alan Kimmel, due to him being absent this week due to an injury, he drops to 18th in the point standings. And we don't know when Kimmel's coming back, but we do hope for a speedy recovery for Alan Kimmel and that 88, as he was not present this weekend due to an injury at NOVAR. Ronald Portland in car number 31 drops 1 spot to 19 of the points. He is 260 points back. And rounding out the top 20 is Jay Arnori in car number 1, drops 4 spots to 20th in the point standings. And now let's take a look at a race recap. There were 6 cautions for 24 laps. Shane Kinston was our high climber. He gained 29 spots from 41st to 12th. Walter Youth, our race winner, led a race high 108 laps. There were 4 leaders for 11 lead changes, and the margin of victory was 3.4 seconds. The next time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series drivers will hit the track will be in 2 weeks when the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series hit the track at Phoenix. Our main event next week will be at Pablo Creek Raceway, where the GameStop Truck Series will be racing for race number 19. The Kellogg Series will also be in action next week, with the Northwest being at the Portland International Raceway, the Southwest being at Colorado National. The Razor Arrow Series will also join the fray and will be running at Pablo Creek as well, while the Lowe's Modified Tour will be racing at Stafford. We'd like to congratulate Walter Ethan on scoring his 2nd victory of the season, and we'll see you 2 weeks at Phoenix. We do hope that these drivers will enjoy their final bye before the Columbia weekend.